I never thought a casual dinner with her friend could spiral into something so explosive. But that night changed everything between us. It started innocently enough. My wife, Vanessa, had invited me to meet her college friend, Laura, at a trendy downtown restaurant. I liked Laura. She was witty, charming, and had always been a confidant to Vanessa. I assumed the evening would be light-hearted, just a few drinks and some harmless catching up. But within the first 10 minutes, I noticed Vanessa acting strangely. She kept shooting me glances that were sharp, calculating, and I couldn't read whether they were playful or venomous. We ordered wine and the conversation began with mundane topics. Work, travel, old memories. Then, in a lull, Vanessa made a comment that stopped me mid-sip. "You know," she said, leaning back in her chair with that infuriating smirk. "Sometimes I think you're not exactly what I expected in bed." Her words were deliberate, meant to sting, and they landed like a punch. I choked on my wine for a moment, not because I didn't know it would hurt, but because she had just announced it to her friend in public. My face burned, and I tried to force a laugh, but Vanessa wasn't done. She leaned closer to Laura, lowering her voice just enough for emphasis. "He tries, but let's just say, I've had better." I froze. The restaurant's ambient noise faded into a dull hum, and I felt my chest tighten with embarrassment, shock, and a rising anger I couldn't immediately contain. Vanessa's laugh, sharp and almost cruel, echoed in my ears. I opened my mouth, about to retort when Laura suddenly interjected. Her eyes widened, not mockery, not hesitation, just truth. "Vanessa, really that's not fair. I mean, it's not about him, it's you. You've been impossible lately, and maybe the problem isn't him." The air shifted. Vanessa's face turned crimson, her fingers gripping the wine glass so tightly that it trembled. I hadn't expected Laura to defend me, especially not in front of her. Vanessa's eyes blazed with rage as she slammed her hand on the table. "How dare you don't get to talk about my marriage," she snapped, voice echoing louder than I thought possible. Heads turned at the sudden eruption, and people nearby glanced at us, curious. I stayed silent, my own pulse hammering. A strange mix of vindication and dread filling me. "You've been saying things about me for months, Vanessa," Laura continued calmly, unwavering despite Vanessa's fury. "You've criticized him constantly, pushed him away, and now you're blaming him for things that aren't his fault. Maybe you should look in the mirror before insulting him." Vanessa's rage intensified. "You don't know what you're talking about," she yelled, standing up so abruptly that her chair scraped loudly across the floor. Wine sloshed and the nearby diners flinched. "You both of you think you're so clever. I can't believe you've been teaming up against me." I finally spoke, my voice quiet but firm. "Vanessa, stop. This isn't about me anymore. You chose to insult me in front of someone else. You wanted validation from her, but you got the truth instead. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to." The weight of her friend's words had done more than any argument I could have staged. Vanessa's face twisted with disbelief, as if she hadn't expected anyone to see through her act. She grabbed her purse and stormed out, heels clicking sharply on the wooden floor. Laura shook her head, sighing, and said softly, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make it worse," but she needed to hear that. I nodded, still in shock, feeling a strange mixture of relief and lingering anger. For years, Vanessa had held this sense of superiority, this need to assert control. But tonight, her carefully constructed image shattered. After she left, I stayed with Laura for a while, drinking quietly, letting the absurdity and intensity of the night sink in. I realized something crucial. Vanessa's attempt to humiliate me had backfired spectacularly. Her anger, her rage revealed more than she intended. It wasn't my inadequacy that caused problems. It was her need to dominate, belittle, and control every aspect of our relationship. The days that followed were tense. Vanessa sent me messages apologizing in a way that felt more like damage control than genuine remorse. She claimed she had overreacted and that she was sorry for embarrassing me. But I knew better. The truth was out. Her friend had spoken and Vanessa had no choice but to confront her own behavior. For the first time, I saw her not as my wife, but as someone consumed by ego, fear, and insecurity. I started reflecting on our marriage, on all the times she had criticized, mocked, or belittled me behind closed doors. Tonight had stripped away the illusion. I felt lighter, stronger, and strangely empowered. Laura's courage to speak the truth had given me permission to finally see things clearly. I didn't need Vanessa's approval, validation, or affection anymore. Weeks later, Vanessa tried to re-establish a semblance of normalcy, inviting me to dinner again. I declined. I realized that respect and love can't survive constant mockery, and my self-worth wasn't negotiable. The night at the restaurant had been a turning point. What began as humiliation ended as liberation. I was no longer the man she could undermine at will, and the truth had set me free. Vanessa never understood that. She still saw herself as the victim, still tried to manipulate, charm, and dominate. But I had moved on. And in that quiet, undeniable way, I had won. Not through confrontation, not through revenge, but through clarity, self-respect, and the courage of a friend who dared to speak the truth. The irony wasn't lost on me. The woman who once derided me for failing in bed had been exposed, not by me, but by her own inability to handle honesty. And in that, I found a strange, satisfying peace. The rage she carried left her vulnerable. And in the aftermath, I discovered my strength. I realized that some